Okay, we're going to take a look at long division. We're going to do a very quick overview / review of what long division is. So first things first is you're going to see a couple of different signs. One of them is called the obelus, and this is what it looks like. It's kind of nice. It's easy to do on a keyboard, which is why sometimes on your worksheets you might see it. This is much harder to do on a worksheet. The only thing though is that this is actually easier to do for long division, which is why as much as you might be more familiar with seeing this sign, this is actually a little bit more helpful to us right now. So let's do some baby steps. Let's pretend the very first thing we have is we're trying to say two groups. I've got two, and how many times can two fit into two? So I've got two fingers, and I'm trying to say I've got my two fingers. How many times can I fit these two fingers into these two fingers? And so this is kind of like the opposite of multiplication. How many times can two fit into two? I've got my two, it fits in once. So two goes into two one time. The stuff I'm going to show you in just a second, you don't have to do if you know that it fits in nicely, but let me just show you what we do here. Two fits into two once. I could leave it like this, but let's do this. I'm now going to multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. So if 2 times 1 is 2, I'm going to take my 2 and I'm going to bring it here. I'm then going to subtract. My goal every time I do this is I want to hit 0. I want whatever number I have at the bottom to be 0, because once it's 0, then I know I'm even. There's no owing, there's no not owing, it's just 0. So 2 minus 2 is 0. I don't really have to do this right now because I know 2 fits into 2 once, no problem. But later on in other questions, I might need to know how to do this. So again, how many times does 2 fit into 2? I go 2 times 1, 2 fits into, sorry, let me back up. 2 goes into 2 one time, right? Here's my 2 fingers, here's my other 2, it fits in once. So I write in my 1. Now I multiply, 2 times 1 is 2. I bring it way down here. Now I subtract, and I say, what is this? Subtracting this, the answer is 0. I'm good to go. What happens though if the number is a little bit bigger than itself? How many times can 2 fit into 4? So what I'm going to do is, let's just do 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 numbers on the board and I'm trying to put it into 2 groups. And I can tell that when I do this, it fits into 2 groups very nicely and evenly. So again, I've got one group here of 2, I've got another group of 2, that makes it 2. So I'm going to take the 2 and I'm going to put it way up here. Now I'm going to multiply right here. I'm going to say, what is 2 times 2? And I'm saying that the answer is 4. So I'm going to take my 4, and I'm going to bring it down. And again, my goal is always to bring it down to 0. I have to subtract 4 fingers. I take away 4 fingers. I'm left with no fingers. The answer is 0. Every time I hit 0, I am correct. I know I'm finished my question. So I'm a happy camper. Actually, not every time. You're going to find sometimes you're going to have to bring down other numbers later on. Because what if there's another number here, whatever. But for now, as long as there's no numbers here and I hit 0, we're good. So now what happens if we find a 0 in our question? Because this is, I hate 0. 0 always throws me for a loop. How many times does 2 go into 20? Because it's a smaller number, we know we can visually do this before we actually have to mathematically do this. So watch, 2 into 20, ready? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So let's count how many groups of 2. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know it fits in 10 times, so I'm going to write my 10 right here. Now we're going to try and attack this visually. We're going to see kind of where we go with this. So let's just we're going to write our 10 up here so that we kind of already know we don't have to do long division. But when we meet a question in which we have to do long division and we don't instinctively know this, let's try and figure out how we do that. So first step is generally, how many times can this number fit into this number? This is how we do this. So 2 fits into 2. I've got 2 fits in. I'm putting 2, it fits in 1 time. So I'm going to put my 1 right here. Now I multiply. I'm trying to see, I'm going to go 2 times 1. The answer is 2. So I'm going to take my 2 and I'm going to bring it right down here. Now I subtract. So I've got 2, take away 2, my answer is 0. Like the last question, normally I'd be like, yes, 0, I'm done. The problem though is that, let's kind of use our logic here. If somebody said, I've got 20 cookies and I need them in 2 groups, and you're like, okay, I can do this. Like 20 cookies, we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And they said, I've got 20 cookies, I'm gonna put them in 2 groups. And you can visually go, okay, there's our 2 groups. And you're like, and in each group is 1 cookie. You'd be like, no, there's gotta be way more cookies. If I take 20 cookies and I split them into 2 even groups, I'm not gonna have 1 cookie and 1 cookie and suddenly I combine those and now I've got 20 cookies. That doesn't work. So even if we look at this question with like a small number, we know it's not right. In our brains and our hearts, we're like, no, there's gotta be way more cookies than that. We haven't dealt with this number yet. So here's how you deal with this. Now we look, and if there's no other numbers over here, how many times does 2 go into 0? 0. Done. To me, that I'm like, there's got to be a catch. That is too easy. It works. How many times does 2 go into 0? 0 times. And we know our answer is 10 because we already counted it out before. And so watch this. Let me just show you. How many times is 2 over here? 2 times 0, 2 times 0 equals 0. I'm going to take my 0 here. Nothing, take away nothing. There's a whole lot of existential nothing. 0. Now when I hit 0, I've dealt with this 2, I've dealt with this 0. I'm finished. I already know my answer because I've already checked it before. Let me just even show you how we can check our answers. I'm saying up here that my answer is 10. I'm committing. I'm like, yep, it's got to be 10. Let me multiply. This is what we're going to cross-check. I'm saying 10 times 2 is 20. Because if the question is saying, what is 20 divided into 2 groups? I'm saying, if I take 2 groups of 10 and 10, I should have 20. I'm working my way backwards. So let me multiply. So I actually just wrote in the answer, but let's just actually multiply. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. There's my answer. So I've just checked my division. I know I'm correct because these 3 numbers are these 3 numbers. All right. Let's move on. This is actually easier than the last one we did. So how many times does 2 go into 246? This looks confusing because it's such a long number and we might panic because you're thinking, there's 3 numbers and there's only 1 and it's huge. With this, we're actually kind of lucky because how many times does 2 go into 2? It goes in once. How many times does 2 go into 4? It goes in twice. How many times does 2 go into 6? 3 times. But for the sake of argument, let's just do this the long division way because we're going to try and practice that skill. So how many times does 2 go into 2? It goes in once. Well, we're saying it goes in once. Let's see what happens. So we're going to multiply. 2 times 1 equals 2. I'm going to take my 2 and I'm going to bring it down here. Now I subtract. I've got 2 fingers. I take away 2 fingers, no fingers. So I've got 0. So now I'm trying to say, well, how many times does 2 fit into 0? It doesn't. I can't have no fingers and be like, in you go, 2 fingers. It doesn't work. So now I'm going to bring down my 4. How many times? One of my students actually, I really liked how he said it. I said, how can we make sense of this in like the most understandable language? He said, we bring things down so that we can fit this number into another number. I can't fit 2 into 0. But if I can bring a number down, I can now fit 2 into 4. So think of it as how many times can it fit in is our goal with bringing down. 2 can fit into 4, right? Here's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It can fit in twice. So now I'm going to say, over here, 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm going to bring my 4 here. Now I'm going to subtract. What is 4? And sorry, that looked kind of confusing. What is 0, 4? Take away 4. Well, 0, 4, take away nothing 4 is actually 0, 4. So what is 0, 4? Subtract 0, 4. So what is 4 take away 4? The answer is 0. I know that because I'm old enough that I know that 246 split into 2 groups isn't 12. Maybe if you're watching this, you're like, I don't know, I have no clue. My adult brain is telling me something's not quite right. We're not quite there yet, but we know we're not there because we've dealt with the 2, we've dealt with the 4, we haven't done anything with the 6 yet. We've got a 0, so you kind of want to be like, I think we're done, we've got 0. But we're only done, we're only finished if we have a 0 and we finished every one of these numbers. So now I'm going to bring down my 6. How many times does 2 go into 6? 2 goes into 6 3 times, and I'm going to check, I'm going to multiply. I'm going to say 2 times 3 is 6. Now I'm going to bring down my 6, and I'm going to subtract. Like last time, 0, 6 is the same as nothing 6. I can have nothing. I can have 0, 6 minus 0, 6, or I can just have 6 minus 6. I've got 6 fingers. I take them away. I'm left with no fingers. 6 minus 6 is 0. As soon as I've dealt with all 3 of these numbers, and I've got a 0, now I'm a happy camper. and all is good. I'm finished that one. Okay, we're gonna do a number that is a little bit more challenging because it doesn't really fit nicely. But this is why we do division. How many times does 2 fit into 5? Let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to put this in groups of 2. I've got a group of 2 here. I've got an audience member and he's laughing. I've got another group of 2 here. And I've got this other random number here. So I've got 2 full groups. So I'm going to put my number up here. We're only concerned with how many full groups can fit. Okay? So we're not going to worry about this extra one because otherwise then it would be 6 and that would be more than this 5. So now I'm going to multiply. What is 2 times 2? 2 times 2 is 4. I'm going to bring my 4 here. And now I'm going to subtract because remember my end goal is I'm always trying to reach down until I hit 0. So I've got 5 fingers, I take 4 away, I'm left with 1. I'm going to put my 1 here. This is where, even as an adult, sometimes I kind of panic because I'm like, math is hard for me. Math is very hard for me. And I'm like, I've done everything with every number, now what do I do? Because I'm like, I've dealt with my 5, but I haven't hit 0. And so I'm kind of thinking, what do I do? Here's what we do, is we add in a 0, right here, and then we're going to bring it down. One of my students, again, he said the smartest thing, he said, we have to keep bringing stuff down until this number can fit into this number. That's the whole goal, because we're trying to make it to fit into this. And it's almost like, think of it as we're not dealing with 50, we're dealing with parts of 50. And we're putting 2 into a part of 50, into another part of 50, another part of 50. This is now just, or not into 5, sorry. How many times can 2 fit into 5? It's like, here's a part of a 5, a part of a 5, a part of a 5. We're simply bringing down numbers to help add in stuff to make 2 fit into 5. So, our original question is how many times does 2 fit into 5? We just added a 0, which is tricky because now it looks like we're saying how many times does 2 fit into 50? And that's not the original question. So if we're going to have to bring down a 0, we have to put in a decimal because now we're saying it's less than a whole number. So I'm going to bring down my 0, but look at this. 2 can now fit into 10. Right before I had 1 fingers and I was trying to like stick in 2 into 1. That doesn't work. But I can fit 2 into 10 fingers. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nice and easy. I've got 1 group, 2, 3, 4, 5 complete groups. So I'm going to put my 5 up here. But now I have to multiply because I've got 10. 10 is even higher than 5, which our goal is to hit 0. So we know we're not finished until we hit 0. So now I have to multiply 2 times 5 equals 10. I'm going to bring my 10 here, and I'm going to subtract because again, we're always trying to get down to 0. I've got 10 fingers, I take 10 away, I'm left with 0. This makes me extremely happy because watch this. This is dealt with, and I have a 0. If I have no other numbers along here, and I've got a 0, I know I'm finished. So my original question is how many times does 2 go into 5? It goes in 2.5 times, 2.5, which makes sense because watch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's our original 5. Here's 1 group. Sorry, like this is kind of crazy circular. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just so out of control with this marker. I've got 1 group here, I've got another group here, and then now I have to share this. I'm going to cut it in half. Actually, I'm not going to cut with the marker, it's not going to be clear. There, I've got 2.5, 2.5. And my answer is, I'm saying, how many times does 2 go into 5? It goes 2.5 times. So this is how we do a number into another number that is not a nice, easy, even fit. Okay, this is hard stuff. How many times can we fit one number into another number that's even longer and it doesn't fit nice and evenly? Because we know it's not going to fit evenly because look, even number, odd, odd. It's just an odd number, it's not going to fit. We know it's not going to fit. But we're going to try and make it fit, and it's going to be a bit of a decimal number, which is fine. But, all right, let's do this. Let's do this. How many times does 2 go to 5? Just like last time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know it goes in 1 complete time and a second complete time, and I've got this random thing left over. I'm going to ignore the random a little bit. Fits in 2 times. I'm going to write my 2 up here. So now I have to multiply right here. So 2 times 2 is 4. I'm going to bring my 4 right here, right underneath the 5 that I'm trying to get into it. I'm going to take 5. Actually, let me just, before I forget, 2 goes into 55. I don't want to forget my original question because there's going to be so much stuff I'm going to write on here. I've got 5 fingers. I take away 4. I'm left with 1. There's my 1. Now I can move on to this next number. So let me erase this so that it's kind of clear. So I'm finished over here. Now I'm going to go to this number. And again, like my student said, 2 can't fit into 1. So we need to do something to make this number something that this number can fit into. So we're going to go next door and we're going to say, let's borrow this 5. 2 can definitely fit into 15, but it's frustrating because it doesn't fit in evenly. Because watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This is like random, ridiculous little leftover. So it fits in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 complete times. That's all I care about right now. So I'm going to write in how many complete times can 2 fit into 15. If I had another one, that would make it 16. 16 is bigger than 15. So that doesn't work for me. So I have to go with just the amount of complete times it fits in. So now I'm going to multiply again. So I'm going to say, what is 2 times 7? The answer is 14. So I'm going to take my number and I'm going to write it here. Like always, I want to subtract because I'm always trying to bring it down to 0. Frustratingly, I'm not hitting 0 yet. So I've got 15. I'm taking away 14 from my 15. I'm left with 1. And I'm sitting here, again, as an adult woman being like, oh, what do I do? Because I'm finished this, and I'm not hitting 0. And I know if I don't hit 0, I know I'm not finished yet. So I have to borrow to bring down to 0. So let's just pause for a second. If I had a 0, I'm making it look like my number is 550, which I know it's not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a decimal up here. So then I know that the 0 I'm bringing down, it's not going to be like 270 something is how many times 2 fits into 55, because that's not reasonable. So it's going to be 27 point something, and I know that that's reasonable because if I kind of round a little bit, if I know 27 is close to 25, 25 is a nice easy number to work with. I know that 25 and 25 make 50, which how many times does 2 fit into 55? That's kind of reasonable to say 27. It's not reasonable to say how many times does 2 fit into 55 and I'm going to end up with 275 or whatever. That would not be reasonable. So putting in my decimal because now it's less than a full number, okay? So I'm going to bring my 0 all the way down and it's 10, which again, you're like, 10 is actually decently close to 55. You're like, why am I ending up with 10? I just want it to hit 0. But the nice thing with this though is that at least it's a nice even number. This is an even number. 2 can fit into 10. So watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It fits in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 complete times. So I'm going to put my 5 here. However, although there's a 0 here, it's part of 10. Like I haven't actually hit just 0. So now I have to multiply. 2 times 5 equals 10. I'm going to bring my 10 down. And now I subtract because I'm always trying to subtract because I'm always trying to get down to 0. Up here is the multiplying. Let's just, in a different color. All up in here, this is all multiplication. All down in here is subtraction. And yet we're doing division. So that's why division is hard. If you're thinking like, I don't get it because I don't get it and I'm never gonna get this. Well, it's not you, it's division. Literally, it's like we're trying to divide, but we're multiplying and subtracting as part of division. Like that's 3 things that is too much. 10 take away 10 is 0. So now I'm a happy camper because look, my 0 is accounted for. I've got a 0 over here. I've got a full number up here. If I were to reverse and multiply, and if I were to say, what is 27.5 times 2? Let's actually do this. So 5 times 2 is 10, so let's write this. So 5 times 2 equals 10. So my right-hand number goes on the right, my left-hand number goes up here on the left. Now I've got 7 times 2 is 14. So my 14 would go here, but I'm missing the 1. So I have to add it in. So 14 plus 1 is 15. My right-hand number goes on the right. My left-hand number comes way up here on the left. Now I can multiply 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 equals 4. Plus the 1 to make, let's go 4 plus 1 equals 5. I'm going to put my 5 right here. How many places are after the decimal? 1. So right here, 55.0, let me just show you this, is the same as 55. Okay, so 55.0 is the same as 55. So I just used multiplication to now prove that the answer that I had for division is correct. So here we are. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a 2-digit number that starts with a number that's lower than our 1-digit number. Because if you're not used to doing division, you might panic and be like, 5 doesn't fit into 2. Again, this stuff is really hard. So let's just think logically. I've got 2, and I'm trying to cram 5 fingers into 2 fingers. It doesn't work. How many times can I make 5 fit into 2? I can't. Well, I can't means nothing. I can fit it in no times. No times is nothing. Nothing is 0. I'm gonna put in a 0. So let's do some multiplication. What is 5 times 0? 0. We're gonna bring our 0 down, okay? So, oh gosh. This is actually a very frustrating question. 2 subtract 0 is 2. 5 can't fit into 2. This actually looks the exact same. This is frustrating. 2 subtract 0 is 2. 5 cannot fit into 2. Again, now I'm actually left with the same question. 5 can't fit into 2. I have to bring down my 5. And now I have to figure out how many times does 5 go into 25. Well, anyways, whatever. This is long division for you. This is actually the exact same question. It should lower down in the question. How many times does 5 fit into 25? If it's in 5 times, and I know because watch, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oops. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of 25. So I'm going to put my 5 right here. So now though, I'm not finished because I've dealt with this, but I don't have a 0 yet. So let me multiply to make sure. So 5 times 5 equals 25. Bring my number down. And I have to subtract because I'm always trying to hit 0. 25 subtract 25 is 0. So once I've dealt with all of these numbers and I've bottomed out at 0, I'm a happy camper. Okay, we're going to see how many times 5 can fit into 550. 5 fits into 5 one time. So let's do some multiplication. 5 times 1 equals 5. I'm going to bring my 5 here. 5 subtract 5, 5 fingers, take away 5 is 0. So now I'm finished with this 5. I can cross it off if I want, just to kind of remind myself. Now I can go on to the next one though, because 5 doesn't fit into 0. I can't have nothing and be like 5. So I'm going to bring down my 5. How many times does 5 fit into 5? It fits in one time. So I'm going to put in my 1 right up here, and I'm going to do some more multiplication now. 5 times 1 equals 5. I'm going to bring my 5 over here. I'm going to do some subtraction. 5 subtract 5 is 0, right? I've got 5, I take 5 away, I've got 0. Haven't dealt with this 0 yet though. So now basically I'm going to bring it down. How many times does 5 go into 0? 0 times. Here's my answer. And I know that this answer works. Well, actually, for me, math is really frustrating. So I look at this and I'm like, that seemed too easy. So I'm actually going to check it because it's confusing. So I'm going to multiply. I'm going to say 110 times 5 because I want to check my answer. And my answer should be 550. So let's look at this. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 number, 2 number, 3 number. 1 number, 2 number, 3 number. So I've just checked my answer and I know it's correct. So anytime you hit a 0 and there's no other number greater than 0 after it, you're just going to put a 0 in on the top because that's how many times it goes in. Oh, that helps.